was the 16th century, a time when fear and superstition ruled people's hearts. In the remote and quiet village of Vesilahti, Finland, the air always seemed heavy with something more than just the cold typical of the region. There, among the dense woods and cultivated fields, lived a mysterious figure, isolated from the rest of the village, Kirsti, a woman whose knowledge of medicinal plants made her indispensable, but whose presence stirred suspicion and fear. But before we dive in, let's take a step back, because this story needs to be told from the beginning, and I promise, by the end, you'll think twice before calling anyone a witch. Kirsti was a healer, known for helping those suffering from diseases and wounds that no doctor could cure. People sought her out in secret, hoping her herbal remedies, gathered from the depths of the forest, would heal their loved ones. For a long time, Kirsti was tolerated, although always looked upon with distrust. After all, her remedies worked. But there was something unsettling about her. It was as if she could see beyond the visible, knowing secrets no one dared to share. Everything changed on a freezing winter night when a stranger arrived in the village. Snow covered the ground, and the wind cut like blades. The daughter of one of the most powerful men in the village suddenly fell ill. Neither doctors nor priests could save her, and in desperation he did something he never thought he would. He called for Kirsti. She entered the house silent as death itself and went straight to the girl's bedside. They say she muttered strange words while preparing a tea made from herbs no one recognized. The girl drank the mixture, and that very night, to everyone's surprise, she began to improve. The village breathed a sigh of relief, but that relief quickly turned to fear. The following year, the crops failed, livestock started dying inexplicably, and mysterious illnesses spread throughout the village. Whispers passed from house to house, and soon fingers were pointed at Kirsti. How could a simple woman with no formal studies heal what no one else could? And why had things begun to go so terribly wrong after her intervention? The accusations piled up. Some claimed to have seen Kirsti wandering through the woods at night, talking to shadows moving among the trees. Others said that during the darkest nights, when the wind howled between the mountains, they could hear her laughter echoing in the distance. But the story that sealed her fate was that of Ollie, a local farmer. Ollie swore that on a full moon night, he saw Kirsti casting spells over his fields. He had been watching from afar, hidden, and when he tried to confront her, he was struck by a curse that left him gravely ill. From that moment, Kirsti's fate was sealed. The witch hunt was about to begin. The men of the village went to her house, a worn-down cabin deep in the forest. They dragged her out in chains as she screamed, denying the accusations. But no one wanted to hear her words. Fear had already consumed everyone's hearts. Kirsti was put on trial for witchcraft. Her knowledge of herbs and her ability to heal were seen as signs of a pact with evil forces. There was no defense. In a trial that lasted barely a day, she was condemned to death. But here's what few people know. Before her execution, Kirsti made one last request. She wanted to be buried in the church cemetery, believing her soul could finally find peace there. However, the village priest refused her that wish. Determined not to be excluded even in death, Kirsti commanded that her body be taken to the cemetery during the night, while the priest slept, and that 4 strong men carry her. The burial had to happen before sunrise, with no one knowing, so she could finally be laid to rest on sacred ground. When Kirsti died on that icy winter night, the 4 men followed her instructions exactly. But as they carried her body through the forest, something strange began to happen. The closer they got to the cemetery, the heavier her body became. Dawn was approaching, and the men, exhausted, realized they would never reach the cemetery before the sun rose. As the first light of dawn appeared on the horizon, Kirsty's body became so heavy that they could no longer move it. She had left one final instruction. If they couldn't bury her in the cemetery before sunrise, they must bury her wherever they were. And so they did. There, in the middle of the dark forest, among the trees, they hastily dug a grave and covered her body with branches. But Kirsty's curse didn't end there. The villagers soon discovered that the place where she was buried carried a sinister energy. Legend says that to ward off bad luck and evil spirits, one must bite a rowan twig, cut a birch branch, and throw a pine sprig onto her grave. To this day, people still do this annually, burning the accumulated branches in an attempt to appease the restless spirit of the witch. Years have passed, but the people of Vesilahti have never fully shaken the feeling that something is wrong. Nightmares plague those who live near Kirsty's old house, and some still claim to see her pale figure wandering through the woods. Always during the darkest nights, when the wind howls with fury, whispers seem to fill the air, carrying the memory of a curse that was never forgotten. Today, many avoid speaking of the Witch of Vesilahti, but those who dare to tell her tale still feel a chill run down their spines. Because, though centuries have passed, Kirsty's curse seems to still be alive and waiting. Did this eerie story give you chills? Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell for more spooky legends and bone-chilling tales. Oh, and there's another terrifying story popping up on your screen right now. Be sure to check it out. Until next time, and beware of witches.